the head of Fox Sports, he called me many times. And I never called back because I was like, I don't know, football, what is that? Like, I was so naive coming into these. These jobs were handed to me. Like the sitcom, with David Kohan and Max Mutchnick. It was on the same night as Friends. They're like, oh, we saw you. They would watch in the mornings. I think a lot of casting directors and a lot of heads of studios, and they saw my personality was a little out there. So when David and Max were casting for this weather girl, they auditioned about 21 girls, and they're like, no, she's not a Jillian Barberie. So then they said, why don't we just bring Jillian in? And I was in there for 3 minutes, and they're like, oh my God, you're hired. Because they're both fabulous. Well, Max is fabulous. And, he was talking about my shoes, and you're hired. So I did 10 episodes of that. But to your point, the NFL, yeah, David would watch me in the mornings, and he called me one day. He goes, are you incredible? He's from Australia. He goes, oh, I'm trying to get a hold of you, and either you're incredibly daft or this is a very good way to get me to hire you. It's a horrible Australian accent. And I said, okay, but I don't know anything about the NFL. He goes, no, we don't want you to do that. We want you to do weather. And I was like, weather? Some of the stadiums are domed. And he's like, people bet on these games, and a lot of it has to do with weather conditions. And I was like, say no more. So I would add in certain little, like the turf is going to be there. And I got to mingle with, Howie Long and JB and Terry Bradshaw and Jimmy Johnson, Chris, with the C word, I can't think of his last name, and Troy Aikman, Chris Collinsworth for 10 years. And it was one big party, not just in the studio, but I did 3 Super Bowls, fight of crowds. So I would do the pregame from the field, talk to a couple of the players. And then as soon as they'd be interviewing Paul McCartney and Bill Clinton, right, up in the stands. We all had to have security because it's just they're superstars in this football world. But by the second or third Super Bowl, I got really attacked by a mob of men. And I had one security guard, JD, he was amazing. And we were holding hands, and I was holding hands with Howie's wife. I'll never forget this. And this crowd comes over, and Howie's wife just drifted away, and my security guard's hand. And I'm terrified in crowds, but these were drunk men, and they were like, screaming. And I'm pretty tough, but let me tell you, in that atmosphere, I was like laughing it off, and I want to cry. And I got back to the hotel, taking in the golf cart, and I watched this. Every Super Bowl I watched from my hotel room, and then afterwards they'd come back and they'd have parties. And I have an interesting story about that. So we're at dinner at the party with, they call, the A team. So it's Terry and JB and Howie Long. I go, where's so-and-so and so-and-so? Where's Troy? Where's Chris Collins? Oh, they have a separate dinner down at so-and-so. I go, oh, that. So me and Lisa Ashley, with our boots, we left our dinner, stormed down to their dinner. Of course, there were a lot of cocktails involved. We took everybody from that, and we're like, oh no, you're coming to our table. And I brought them all back, and we had the biggest party. But I didn't realize how unconventional that was. Now, David Hill, another the man who hired me, he has just this Rupert Murdoch loved him because he was brilliant, right? He could see things that were different and in the sports world, and he really changed it. But we were flying back from a Super Bowl. I don't even know which one it was. And they always fly their talent first class, right? I'll sit in the back they're all my friends, the wardrobe, hair, and makeup. That's who I hang out with. So one of the executives came up to me and he said, would you give up your seat for me or for my father or whatever? And I'm like, okay. So I sat in the back. David Hill got wind of it about a week later, and he called me in and he said, did this so-and-so, I don't even remember the man's name, did he ask you for your seat? And I was like, yeah, but that's fine. I want to sit with Lisa and those guys. And he's like, no. He asked you, or did you give it to him? I go, well, I don't know. If he asked me, and I'm cool with it, because David took care of people. I wasn't used to that. And I don't know. It's just different when you work on those big shows because they're so pampered compared to news. Like, we come from news. It's raw. It's gritty. And then I go on sets of shows like Sharknado 4, anybody? And it was just like catered this, and they drive you here and they put your shoes on. I'm like, what is happening? It's so different. And they're like, you're so grateful. I go, yeah, because I give her TV news. I do my own makeup. I do my own stand-up, whatever. It's so different.